So when I was making the legend tier list, at the very end and at the top, I put what I considered to be like the meta as far as weapons go. Now, we're going to order them, but for the time being, I'm going to just drop in the weapons I think are meta. I'm going to talk about them a little bit. We'll do like ordering and I'll shift stuff around at the end if need be. So just to run through it really quick, I believe the weapons I put were axe, bow, gauntlets, sword, and then Scythe. I'm going to put Scythe up there as well. Okay, now to talk about each of them. Axe, I think it didn't get touched along with bow. Both have kind of stayed the same for at least over a patch now. And really, Axe, you can get damage really quick. It's super easy to use. It's a nice weapon to kind of fall back on. However, the weapons I'll talk about, these three in particular, Gauntlets, Sword, and Scythe, they can kind of do a good job into Axe. So that's like the one reason why that's its downfall a bit. But yeah, great killing power, good damage build up. Now bow, you might be able to say bow as far as killing goes, it's really good off stage. If you're good with the off stage, then awesome. Neutral with it can be pretty easy with things like D-light, side light, and I would say neutral light. Neutral air is good for juggling. Like, it's still such a free move. The damage is also really nice. I mean, everything flows well with the weapon. So if you're willing to put in the time with bow, I think it's a really good investment. Gauntlets, the reason gauntlets still remain up here, even though they did get nerfed, probably the hardest out of any weapon. Gauntlets, I gotta say, gauntlets into axe, I think is gauntlets' best matchup. I think gauntlets do an incredible job into them, so I think that's why they do remain relevant. And they also still have super solid damage build up. It just takes, you just have to get that one extra read now, and then you can get that damage. You may have to alternate the pathing you take now, as far as what's the optimal damage route instead. So sword, they nerfed Dare a bit, and now Dare, you can't do the three hit combo with D-Light Dare into recovery, D-Light Dare into N-Light on sword. I'm pretty sure you can still do it. It's just at very specific health now. I think it's at 170 or something. So if you're not getting the really proper setup for it, then it's going to be one of those things where it's kind of okay, well, it's never really going to be used now. But other than that, I think sword is still super strong. You just kind of have to alter how you play a little bit. The thing is, I've heard people describe sword now as more boring just because of this dare change. It forces you kind of to get that one single hit with dare, and then you have to kind of reset a bit. So we'll see how sword evolves. If anything, I don't think sword gets higher in the meta, or is ranked higher than a lot of these weapons. If anything, I think it falls down. Okay, Scythe has been really good for a while. The question is, will more people pick it up now, now that gauntlets have been nerfed, right? I think Scythe with active input is inherently broken because active input, you basically allow a handful of moves to have a second option to them, which is really, really good, right? Now you have you can do soft side light, you can do the active input version of side light. And off of that, that alone, that keeps your opponent guessing. It allows for a lot of different options you can do. The damage buildup is actually crazy for this. You do a strong side light into an end light read. It's super easy. I actually talked about it in a video before with the 3 tips on Scythe. I made that about a month ago, I think, at this point. So if you watch that, you'll see me talk about this. But hard side light into an end light, it can cover a lot of different dodge reads. And if you catch an air dodge in particular, then you're going to get at least, I want to say 3-4 hits after, and it's going to be you're going to put your opponent in orange. So you get 2 of those reads, or you just get 1 solid read on Scythe. Okay, you take care of the damage, and then you look at the characters that have Scythe and what you can do with soft side light into end sig on some of them. For some of them, if you don't have a dodge, you're not escaping that. So that's another really, really big thing right now. And I know that's kind of character dependent, but even it's super good. Off stage, Scythe has got to be the best weapon in the game when it comes to off stage. The ability just to move your opponent so far and so easily is really, really nice. It's just a question of, again, it's kind of like bow, where are you going to be able to do it? Are you good enough to actually pull it off? All right, so now we're just going to go down the line. So cannon, I think cannon is very good at what it does. Cannon is, I would say, primarily a string weapon, but it does have some really good combos when you look at it. All the stuff you can do off of D-Light, D-Light Nair, D-Light Dare. You can even do D-Light Side Air still, but it's, I'm not much of a cannon player. I think it's my worst weapon. But alongside that, you have N-Light being really, really quick as far as startup goes. It's just, again, I think cannon's a weird one because I think cannon makes use of a lot of crossovers. And if you're not doing a lot of crossovers on it, I think it makes the weapon a bit worse. So I guess that you can say, like, for every weapon, if you know what you're doing with them, then it's definitely going to look probably better than maybe what it actually is, right? Because you're just really good at the weapon. But at the same time, there are aspects. I think cannon nair. I think cannon recovery is still a little wonky. Just the damage you can get off of some reads and stuff, and also the distance you can take someone if you do catch their dodge is still pretty good. It's kind of similar to I would say Scythe, just because like with Scythe you hit 1 or 2 moves, you can move the person so far. With cannon, you're gonna keep your momentum on a lot of the moves, and also, like I said, if you catch someone in a dodge, you're gonna move them like super far off stage, which I think is really, really good. Okay, so a hammer's an odd one. Enlight is super quick. D-Light is still super good, right? The combos you can get off D-Light. Hammer has, I believe, the fastest time to kill in the game, so it's really good at killing. Off stage is pretty linear, but if you watch players like Java in particular, Java does an insane job with the offstage, right? It's all based around recovery, and if you can use like the massive hitbox of the weapon throw for hammer, then you can like use recovery and the weapon throw, and you can pretty much cycle it. You might be able to like find a D-Light in there, and then eventually either you're gonna just hit so many recoveries that they have no options left, or you're gonna find and try and probably place like a side air, maybe a ground pound just to get like an earlier kill, just really send them off. Blasters have been an interesting topic because blasters I don't think necessarily are bad at all. That's why this tier list only goes down to B. A weapon being B doesn't mean, right, you're not going to find success with it, but I think given right now, especially when you look at what like weapons are good, I think some of them do really good into it, but I don't think that's blasters' main problem. I think blasters, people just know what's going to happen with blasters, right? With Scythe, like I said, with active input's so good because you always have multiple moves ready to you, at least with nair, with dare, with D-Light, and with sidelight, right? Like you have extra options. With blasters, you don't have those options. People know it's like, okay, he's going to do D-Light, then he's going to do one of maybe a few moves. At early health, you have another option open to you. You have sidelight, and you could do side air, and you could do recovery, but at later health, it's going to be one of 2 options. It's going to be, okay, are they going to try and kill me with recovery, or are they going to just try and push me away maybe with Sair? But yeah, I think that's like what really hurts blasters right now, especially with like Gauntlets, Bow, and Scythe being up here as well. They just can do a really good job getting inside of blasters. So if I'm not mistaken, with Katars, they did nerf it a bit, but then they gave the ability. Now if you hit an Enlight, I'm pretty sure you can't fast fall Enlight recovery anymore, and you can't jump it either, so that's pretty good for Katars. But at the end of the day, I think right now they are just solid. Now keep in mind, the only one that's going to be ordered is S tier. Right now it's not. I probably should, for the time being, let's just remove it so there's no more like potential confusion, but at the end it'll definitely be ordered. The rest of these I'm not gonna order, like I said, so don't get too like hung up on where I put like Katars or whatever. But yeah, I think Katars are definitely, they're solid at what they do. They're good with reads. Damage build-up's pretty solid on them overall. I actually think they nerfed dare. It doesn't do as much damage anymore, but even then, like that Enlight into recovery, that's a pretty good thing. So now if you do catch a dodge with Enlight, you're gonna be guaranteed that recovery. I actually wonder how many people thought that I was gonna put like Lance in B alongside blasters. I mean, me personally, the easiest way to like realize that it is flawed is just by looking at what's in the meta again. When you look at the weapons that are up here, like Axe traditionally has done pretty well into Lance a lot of the times. I think Gauntlets and Sword also doing like an incredible job into Lance if you know how to play them. So that definitely hurts it. I think Lance, so much of the play is based around Nair, and the buff they gave Nair a while ago, they made it so Nair could true combo the very last frame. You could true combo that back end of Nair into like Sair, I think recovery, maybe dare as well, but it opened it back up a little bit. But it's so hard to tell when, and the likelihood of you getting it is pretty low. It's consistent, but it's low. So unless you're like really, really familiar with the weapon, it's going to be kind of hard to recognize that. Even then, when you just look at Lance as a whole, like it just feels like the options you're going to be going for are very limited. Sidelight in particular doesn't feel like it's that great, I would say, because sidelight hits very, very low, so it's not really good for like catching landings necessarily. because there's a likelihood that someone could actually touch the ground before you catch them. And if that happens, that's not good, because that means next thing you know, you're punished that you were thinking of doing. Like, you're thinking of getting maybe 3 hits in. Well, now you're not going to be able to. It's hard for me to say where orb exactly lies, but I think I'm going to play it safe, and I'm actually going to put orb at the top of A, unless specified otherwise. Like, nothing's ordered, like I said, from A and, onward. But I will say, I'll just put orb at the top of A, because not many people are playing it right now, but I think orb definitely has an extremely high ceiling. I think it can probably beat weapons like axe, bow, gauntlets. Like it can definitely contend with all these weapons. It's one of those things where it just kind of depends on the user. The changes they made to orb a while back, they weren't that big. The weapon still feels the same overall, but you can definitely tell a little bit. And I know in Summers, I know Sandstorm was playing a bit of Fate. Then he swapped off when he lost the game to Crocky. Pierre played Fate into me, and it was pretty good overall. Like, there were some close games, but that ended up being a 3-0. I don't know how other people performed. I also played Radish, who's a Petra player, and I beat him as well. So yeah, it's just hard for me to tell, because the people that have traditionally played Orb in the past haven't recently been playing it. I guess Sandstorm did, like I said, but even then he ended up swapping off pretty quick. So it's really hard to kind of judge where Orb is, but I do think Orb has an extremely high ceiling. Spear for me, Spear's in Easy S. I will say Spear's kind of similar to Guns, where it's basically the same thing over and over again. Like, you know what to expect, but I think with Spear, just Nair alone, Nair is extremely good. Dare is really good with poking and off stage, and also the damage you can get. It's just so much. There's potential for pretty high damage reads. I'm pretty sure you can go past 70 damage, or right around 70 damage, if you hit if you say you hit a side light and then you get another side light and then you can do a double D-Light Sair. You have that damage to you. The flow with the weapon can be pretty good. Yeah, they nerfed it a little bit, but this patch, actually, the most recent patch, they took away 2 of the recovery frames that they added onto it. So now it still has 1 fixed recovery frame, which it's kind of whatever. It definitely feels a lot better, though, now. So I wouldn't be necessarily surprised to see more people kind of going back to Spear that kind of hopped off it in the previous patch. Okay, with Greatsword now, some people would say Greatsword probably would go in Flawed. Some would say that it's just solid, and, there's honestly some that think it is probably part of the meta, or it could be part of the meta, right? It's one of the best weapons in the game. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to say the ceiling with Greatsword is ridiculous. I think that even though they nerfed it, it could potentially use more nerfs to the finishers, just because with Greatsword, it's kind of like Scythe, it's kind of like Cannon, where you're going to lock people in these strings and you're going to be moving them a ton, right? You're going to move them to the other side of the stage, and then you're going to still kill them at 110, 120 because of the positioning, and because, honestly, the force on some of the finishers, specifically the side finishers, they still have a lot of force. The question is, it's just, who's going to be the one to step up to the plate and play it again? Sandstorm's a likely choice. I know Wrench just kind of hopping back on it. I've played it previously, but I don't think necessarily right now I'm going to hop on it this patch. I'm more looking at Scythe and Gauntlets still. But I'm sure there's people in maybe other regions. I know Brazil, LX was one. I don't know anyone in EU who might hop on it. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a weapon to look out for sure. Also, the reads on it. When you hit a sidelight, you pretty much, a lot of the times, a pretty easy opener as far as deciding what kind of read do I want to do on the person. Just do side light and then chase dodge across and do a reverse end light, or do side light and then just do a chase dodge across or dash across and do an end light opener again. You literally just do it one way or you do it the other. And a lot of the times, both those options cover so many dodges that they're just really good to start with. And if you catch them with it, then you're probably going to be guaranteed at least 2 more hits. Best case, you probably get 4, I would say 4 to 5, but it also depends if they touch the ground in the time, and how quick you're inputting the moves, because if you don't input them quick enough, they could touch the ground, they could get their dodge back quicker, yada yada. But yeah, I think Greatsword definitely gets to go up here. Okay, so you might notice a little bit of changes. Yes, obviously, I guess right now this is what I would say. Best to worst is really, I'm not gonna talk about it too much just because I don't want to take too much time, but hopefully this gives you guys an idea. I figured I'd go ahead and kind of, like I said, roughly order these in the end. because I didn't want to just put Orbit top and not put the rest of it. But there's probably some you could change in here for sure. Not saying that S there isn't, but I feel more solid about my opinion in S, where I'm kind of like, okay, I could see why people would definitely swap around a few in here. And then B, there's only 2 weapons, and I would honestly take blasters over lance. So that does it really. That's my tier list. And yeah, there are a lot of weapons in S. You know, maybe you could drop down sword a bit, but other than that, I don't really know what else you could really do. Great sword's another one maybe people would want to move, but I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this helps you guys decide what you want to play as far as weapons go this patch. And yeah, thanks for watching. Peace, everyone.